So we're back in business? Oh, hell yeah.
Hey guys, Kiwi here, warning of spoilers for Breaking Bad, El Camino, and Better Call Saul to Season 6, Episode 11. In this video, I'll be breaking down and reviewing Episode 6-11. Like the video if you end up enjoying it, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Twitter for more Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad updates. With that being said, let's jump right into the breakdown. So the cold open features Saul kidnapped by Walt and Jesse as they drive him out into the desert. I love how as soon as you notice the folding chair along with many bottles of chemicals, you instantly know where we are. This of course leads into Saul being kidnapped by Walt and Jesse during his debut episode in Breaking Bad Season 2 Episode 8. I love how they paralleled the titles to these two episodes, since Saul's first episode in Breaking Bad is titled Better Call Saul, while Walt and Jesse's first episode in Better Call Saul is titled Breaking Bad. The cold open to 6-11 shows moments before the iconic It Wasn't Me, It Was Ignacio scene, while the full Walt and Jesse cameo scene later on in the episode shows what happens moments afterward. I love how this story has come full circle in such a satisfying way, and I already have a full breakdown of the Walt and Jesse cameo in 6-11 if you want to check that out afterwards.
It wasn't me! It was Ignacio! He's the one! Oh no! Oh no, 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 no!
Fun fact, they only had 3 days to film all their Walt and Jesse scenes due to Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul only having 3 days in their busy schedules that matched up for them to get together to film. So although they filmed actual Walt and Jesse cameo scenes back in April 2021, the cold open scene with Saul kneeling down in front of the open grave was filmed long after in November, with Jesse's actor actually being a stand-in for Aaron Paul. The creators also had to plow a field to replicate the desert outside the RV to look similar to the original Breaking Bad scene due to the original location now being a housing development. Later in the episode, we see Mike meeting Saul in his office as a hired PI in order to give him information on many targets that Saul has his eyes on. I love how we see Mike again during the Breaking Bad timeline, further elaborating his partnership with Saul along with explaining how Saul found out who Walt truly was by the end of Breaking Bad Season 2 Episode 8.
What about, that Heisenberg fella?
High school chemistry teacher.
You're shitting me, really?
Walter Hartwell White, chemistry teacher over at J.P. Wynn, working with a former student, current meth head, one Jesse Pinkman.
I'll have a full breakdown of this Mike and Saul scene out on the channel tomorrow, along with Saul going to Walt's school, so be on the lookout for that. I also love all the incredible transitions between the Breaking Bad and Gene timelines in this episode. First, the shot of Buddy closing the door to one of his marks after taking the duct tape off of the door to the RV opening in the Walt and Jesse cameo. Then possibly one of my favorite shots of the whole show is the camera zooming into the open grave as the RV drives away, transitioning into Gene laying in his bed, positioned in such a way that it appears Gene is laying in the grave itself. Near the end of the episode, there's the transition of Gene closing the door to Jeff's cab, transitioning Saul opening the door to his Cadillac as Saul approaches Walt's school, and then Saul approaching the front doors to the school again, transitioning back to Gene approaching the house that he's about to break into. Mainly in this video, I wanted to discuss the Gene timeline, but first off, the intro sequence to this episode is amazing. First showing Gene's glass of alcohol on his chair, along with showing the four-way intersection crossroad. Now seeing Francesca as a landlord to two stoners is absolutely hilarious, as she mocks them for clogging their sink and not knowing how to use a plunger to unclog it.
You can do it. It's a simple up and down motion, like you're used to.
When Francesca leaves to go to the payphone to speak with Gene, she's paranoid that she's being followed, causing her to take a right instead of a left at a certain road with 3 flagpoles and then drive around until she's certain that she's not being followed. She then doubles back to these 3 flagpoles, this time taking a left to where she actually needs to go. This shows that although Francesca is living her life as a free woman, she's developed the same kind of paranoia as Gene. As we come to learn during her phone call with Gene, she has every right to be paranoid, admitting that the authorities are keeping tabs on her by following her around, opening her mail, and even tapping her phones. I love how we get the answer to the mysterious phone call that was set up between Saul and Francesca in the cold open to 4:05 during the Breaking Bad flash forward, since we see it come to fruition here at the beginning of episode 6-11. I have a video on the channel discussing Gene's phone call with Francesca already, along with a second video discussing Gene's attempts to try and contact Kim as well. We later see Jeff arrive at home to see that Gene is there mingling with Marion once again. Jeff follows Gene out to their shed, to which Jeff is blabbing on as to reasons why Gene could be mad at him, such as buying Marion a laptop. Jeff is confused why Gene is at his house, considering the fact that in the last episode, Gene very clearly told Jeff to stay away from him. Gene tells Jeff to stop talking, that he needs to ask Jeff some questions. Gene asks Jeff about his night shifts working as a cabbie, along with what time his shifts are. Gene tells Jeff to get on the 9 to 6 shift from now on, and that they need to get their hands on some barbiturates, which are a dangerous drug that are incredibly sleep-inducing. Jeff is incredibly surprised that Gene is implying how he has another con in mind, and humbly asks Gene if they're back in business. Gene says nothing and just pours them both a glass of booze and holds up his glass to cheers Jeff, implying that the answer is yes. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I absolutely love Pat Healy as Jeff. He seems like such a humble and grounded character who is incredibly sympathetic in my eyes.
What? You're shitting me.
He may be a bit of a buffoon, but I love him for it. We then cut to Gene singing Brandy in karaoke, reminding me of Jimmy and Chuck singing karaoke together in the season 4 finale. The first guy we see Gene con reminded me a lot of Marco at first, and fun fact, he's actually Buzz from Home Alone. Gene pretends to be a sucker, letting this guy Alfred do him over and over again with simple bar tricks every chance he gets. First at the bar to get Gene to buy him more drinks, and then outside the bar to let Alfred take the first cab. It's really interesting watching Gene the Wolf pretend to be a sheep in order to gain Alfred's trust, along with getting him as drunk as possible while Gene secretly sucks up all of his drinks with a tube in his sleeve.
Oh, you lose, sucker.
We then see that Alfred has gone into Jeff's cab, who gives him a free bottle of water, which turns out to be drugged with the barbiturates that were mentioned earlier. After Alfred goes to sleep, we then see Buddy arrive at his house, posing as someone who's walking their dog. Since Jeff secretly put duct tape on the door frame to Alfred's house after helping him walk up to his front door, Buddy's able to sneak in easily. Buddy then steals Alfred's wallet right out of his front pocket, making you think that Buddy is going to steal his money, when in reality he's stealing Alfred's identity by taking out his ID and other cards with his identification on it, taking photos of both the front and back of each card. Buddy then finds Alfred's passwords to all of his accounts and takes a photo of that too, then leaves while taking the duct tape off the front door. We then see Gene order a swing master, something that he constantly used as Saul Goodman, which we even see this episode during the Breaking Bad scene with Mike and Saul in his office. We then get a montage of Gene, Jeff, and Buddy pulling off the same con over and over again with many targets that Gene has picked out. Each target is an egotistical single man who's wealthy and lives alone, mirroring the targets that Slip and Jimmy would always choose back in Cicero, along with the targets that Jimmy would always choose while conning with Kim back in the early seasons. Gene chooses these targets not only because they're perfect marks for the con at hand.
Do you know how much time, how much effort I put into finding the perfect mark? I have to weed through all these saps who have wives and families at home, find somebody who's alone with money.
But also due to his lifelong resentment of successful a-holes always putting him down, such as even Chuck himself. The montage confirms to us that Gene has been drugging the water bottles that Jeff has been giving to their marks, along with showing how they're selling the stolen identities for profit. During the montage, we get another Tom Schnauz Easter egg with Tom's photo being on one of the IDs of the identities that Gene, Jeff, and Buddy steal. The montage also features a special cover of the song Tapioca Tundra by Mike Nesmith from The Monkees. I absolutely love the soundtrack choices for this show, and this song is no different as it perfectly fits with the theme of this montage and the episode as a whole. Now usually whenever Jimmy would do cons, it'd be for the thrill of it, as he always found it fun. However, Gene in this episode doesn't even seem like he's having fun, as if he's just conning for the sake of it, being spiteful and hateful. It's like Gene is taking his anger out on these targets that he's conning. Drugging people and stealing their identities is also incredibly dark, something way worse than he'd normally do back in his Slip and Jimmy days. Jimmy/Saul/Gene has always had a pattern of hatred. On the Insider podcast, Peter Gould said that Gene can't stop getting in the way of himself. Tom Schnauz also confirmed on the Insider podcast that Gene went back to conning to keep himself distracted from the pain that the phone call about Kim caused him. Since Gene is so upset about Kim, it's reopened old wounds to the point that he can't just go back into hiding as Gene in silence. He needs to occupy his mind by conning. This is similar to how in episode 609 we saw Saul Goodman distracting himself with work from the moment that he woke up. Whenever Jimmy is faced with painful emotions, he always pushes it down further and further while compartmentalizing it and trying to distract himself with cons or his job in order to keep his mind busy and occupied. He did it in season 3 after Chuck got him suspended from the law, he did it in season 4 after Chuck died, and then he did it as Saul Goodman to distract himself from not having Kim in his life anymore, along with Howard's death and all the other traumatic events of season 5 and 6 involving Wallow. Here we see him doing it again as Gene in order to distract himself from thinking about Kim and his past. After his phone call with Kim, he went back to working at Cinnabon, but the scene of Gene staring at the dough mixer shows that Gene doesn't want to be alone with his thoughts. He can't simply go back to living his normal dull life as Gene due to being stuck in his own head, so he begins occupying his spare time by conning with Jeff and Buddy, being the reason why he even approached Jeff again in the first place. Tom also confirmed that Gene doesn't even need the money from these cons with identity theft, as he still has the diamonds that we saw in the season 5 Gene scene. It's also worth mentioning that the alias that Gene uses while speaking to his marks at various bars is Victor with a K.
Puzzles, I'm not good at this.
Victor, this is an easy one.
The same alias that he would use while conning with Kim, implying that he's doing these cons because of Kim.
My name's Ken, by the way.
Victor with a K.
Cool, Victor with a K. And this lovely lady is?
It's Giselle St. Clair.
It's ironic how even though Gene is doing these cons to keep his mind off of Kim, he's purposely using the alias that he would use with Kim, constantly reminding himself of his time with her. Saul has always done this, keeping mementos of situations from the past that he's trying to forget, such as the Zafiro Añejo bottle stopper that we saw fall into the gutter at the beginning of 601. Gene's final mark of the episode is a man who reveals that he has cancer, causing him to become more sympathetic than other marks. While this makes the audience maybe think that Gene will consider not going through with the con on this guy, Gene does it anyways. Later that night, Gene gets a call and we can see that he's using the same type of Bluetooth earbud that he would as Saul, showing yet another way that he's reverting back to his old personas. First Marco's ring, then the Swing Master, and now the Bluetooth earbud. I love subtle little details like this, keeping up with the idea that everything shown on screen in both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul are there for a reason. Gene gets pissed off that Buddy bailed on conning the guy with cancer, demanding that they get back to their shed immediately. We then cut to Marion in her bed looking at more cat videos on her laptop, and I love the small detail of the creator showing that she is using YouTube and that YouTube looks like how it used to back in 2010 when this all takes place. Marion then looks out her window, noticing Gene yelling at Buddy as they both walk into the shed, implying that Marion is now onto the fact that they're secretly doing something nefarious behind her back. Even back when Gene was first at Marion's house when she was showing him her new laptop at the beginning of the episode, she sounded confused that Gene suddenly decided to get up and go to the shed with Jeff under the excuse that he wanted to go look at the car that she saw them working on at the end of the last episode.
And Jeff and I take our drink to go. I mean, is that car running? I'd love to take a gander. Come on. Okay.
It's now clear that Marion is suspicious on what Gene is really doing with Jeff and Buddy, something that will most likely come to fruition in one of the 2 final episodes of the show. Now, Buddy admits to Gene that he can't rip off a guy with cancer, saying how he felt pills in the Mark's pocket and that the pills are the same kind that his own father used to take. Gene says, so what, a guy with cancer can't be an a-hole, along with saying that he speaks from experience. This is Gene once again referencing Walt to convince Buddy and Jeff to con for him, just like in the last episode with the department store heist. But just like how Gene left out details about Walt in episode 610 to further his convincing argument, he does the same here in 611.
I'll tell you what's crazy. 50-year-old high school chemistry teacher comes into my office. The guy is so broke, he can't pay his own mortgage. 1 year later, he's got a pile of cash as big as a Volkswagen. That's crazy. So, a guy with cancer can't be an asshole? Huh. Believe me, I speak from experience.
Gene knows that this Mark who has cancer isn't a bad guy, as he seems so incredibly genuine and humble while they were back at the bar. Gene is filled with so much hate that he still wants to rip off this guy, not caring how immoral it is. This reminds me of Jimmy ruining Irene's friendships in season 3 to get Sandpiper to settle, except in season 3, Jimmy backpedaled, while here in 611, Gene is doubling down. Gene tries convincing Buddy that he'll eventually forget about horrible things that he's done, even though that's far from the truth.
You get over it. Okay, please, believe me. Before you know it, you forget all about it. Go.
This is once again paraphrasing what Mike told Jimmy back in episode 509, something that Jimmy has already unsuccessfully paraphrased to Kim in 609.
One day you're gonna wake up, eat your breakfast, brush your teeth, go about your business. You're gonna realize you haven't thought about it, and that's the moment you realize you can forget.
We'll wake up and brush our teeth and we'll go to work. At some point, we'll suddenly realize that we haven't thought about it at all. And that's when we'll know. We'll know we can forget.
Gene doesn't believe this as much as he wants to. He likes to tell himself that one day he'll forget all about it, when in reality that's the opposite from the truth. In regards to everything I said earlier about Jimmy, Saul, Gene trying to keep himself constantly occupied to keep his mind busy so he doesn't start thinking about all the painful emotions that he's pushed down, possibly all coming back up like an erupting volcano. Clearly Jeff seems to agree with Buddy, but doesn't want to admit it, and he's sitting on the fence due to not wanting to ruin his chances to associate with Gene after just getting him back as a partner. Not only is Jeff great in this scene, but the actor who plays Buddy is also great as well.
The guy has cancer, man. I found pills in his pocket. Okay, the same ones my dad took. For like pancreatic cancer. I can't rip off a guy with cancer. I'm sorry.
The way that he tells Gene that he can't rip off a guy with cancer is so genuine and believable. I always love it when characters in shows act like exactly how someone would in real life. It really sucks me into the moment and immerses me into the show even more.
No, man. I can't do that. I can't.
Buddy tries getting Gene to hear him out, and that they should let this mark go since they're already rolling in cash and that there's many more fish in the sea. Gene stubbornly still wants to rip off the mark with cancer, and so he fires Buddy, which honestly just kinda pulls at my heartstrings. Gene is so freaking hateful because of his phone call with Kim that he just can't let this go. Even if Gene wanted to do this on his own without Buddy or Jeff, he still could have kept Buddy around for future cons. See, this is exactly why Jeff sat on the fence instead of backing up Buddy, since what he was fearing of is exactly what happened to Buddy, being fired by Gene. Gene then gets Jeff to drive him to the Mark's house, even though Buddy admitted that he already took the tape off of the door frame. I love how they show the same shot of the isotope air freshener as the camera pans up to Jeff staring at Gene in the back of his cab, just like the season 4 Gene scene. They did this shot when Jeff first recognized Gene in season 4, and then again in episode 610 when Jeff arrived at home to find Gene with Marion, and now a third time as Jeff drives Gene to the house of the Mark with cancer. Jeff warns Gene that the Mark may be awake by now since it's been over 3 hours since he drank the laced water, and that Jeff doesn't even know if he finished the water or not. Gene just tells Jeff not to worry about it and to pick him up in 20 minutes. The episode ends with Gene walking into the Mark's house, breaking in through a window on the door and unlocking it. It's also worth noting that I feel like Gene smashing the window to commit a B&E is a parallel to Gene smashing the phone booth near the beginning of the episode after trying to connect with Kim. This episode gets an S tier. I love everything about this episode. I love switching back and forth between the Breaking Bad and Gene timelines while paralleling what Saul/Gene is feeling in those moments in regards to his emotions along with his actions. I also love seeing Gene going back to conning more with Jeff and Buddy, along with how hateful Gene is by stealing identities in order to mask the true anger he has over his negative phone call with Kim. I also love how when the credits roll at the end of the episode, the names to the credits are white now. This is not only due to the Gene timeline being in black and white, but also because the original Breaking Bad credits were always in black and white too. We've been done with the Better Call Saul timeline for 2.5 episodes and are now fully into the Breaking Bad and post-Breaking Bad timeline. These credits were also white during episode 610, but I just failed to mention this detail until now. This was Tom Schnauz's final episode for Better Call Saul, and he did a brilliant job. This episode just gets better and better every time I watch it. The montage is brilliant, and the acting during this episode is amazing. From Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul reprising their roles as Walt and Jesse, along with Bob Odenkirk seamlessly slipping back into the Saul Goodman role with both of them, and Jonathan Banks as Mike, and even the incredible jobs that Jeff and Buddy's actors did, along with even their targets for the identity theft cons. There's so many amazing episodes to Better Call Saul, but this is definitely one of my favorites. Let me know what you thought about episode 611 in the comments below, and check out all the other videos I've done on 611 as well. I have a few of them linked at the end of the video. If you're wondering why I didn't go in depth talking about certain subjects such as the Walt and Jesse cameo, the Saul and Mike scene, the Francesca phone call, or the Kim phone call, well, that's why. That being said, I'd appreciate a like on the video if you've enjoyed anything I've said today. If you're new to the channel, just haven't yet already, subscribe and hit that bell notification to stay updated on when I post new content on Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. Check out my Patreon or give a super thanks to help support the channel financially, I'd really appreciate it. But most importantly, I thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.
You only go around once.
You got that right.
Gene showed me, you go to the box up here, and then you type in funny cat videos.
It's like America's Funniest Home Videos, but you get to be the host.
Wouldn't that be something?